you know, austere, sacred moment. Let's just greet each other, even if it's just to call each other's names.
Hi, Erin.
Hi, Deborah.
Stephanie.
Kristen, Marnie,
Hello, everyone.
Lisana,
Miles, Deborah, Marnie,
Rachel, Mayo,
Marnie,
Anna,
Anna,
you,
Jennifer, Stephanie,
beautiful.
Hi, Nee.
It's okay.
Anna.
Hi, Miles.
Okay.
Oh, that's a beautiful greeting. That's how it's done.
There's Brenda. Hi, Brenda.
Brenda is here? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so let's, sister, big sister, let's do it.
Muted, Brenda.
Unmute would be good. Good morning, dancers. What an honor to see you and your beautiful faces. My apologies for being a little late. I was having some trouble getting on. So the tricksters' energies are always amongst us, and I have to laugh and smile with them. So first, the smudging. Always the smudging for my loved ones. My heart both rejoices in seeing you, and I'm also a little sad. This is our last call, but knowing that relationships have been created that will extend beyond time and space, even outside of this course. So I'm going to invite you all to get present in your chair wherever you are. And to breathe deeply. And feel the soles of your feet rooting into earth. There are new chakras coming online, including ones that connect us to the core of Mother Earth. So imagine as you feel your feet connecting to Mother Earth, that there is a ball about 18 centimeters below the earth, a ball of light that is extending light into your feet above it, and that is extending deep into the core of Mother Earth right now, so that you're connected to her in a very deep way. And imagine this beautiful luminous light coming up through your feet from the core of Mother Earth to nourish you, to nourish your feet, your knees, your legs, to keep you grounded as we journey on this last journey together today, before we set on other journeys that might come after that. And give thanks to Mama Gaia, who is raising her vibration, calling us to raise our vibration into this new era that is coming. And ask her to hold us in all our joy and all our pain, and all our sorrow and all our celebration. Because she knows how to birth new life, and she knows how to compost what no longer serves. It's just reminding us, holding us to that return to her bosom as we breathe in and out. That reminder that we're a part of the cycle of life too. And that we must get more comfortable with the ending of old things and the beginning of new things. That these transitions are inevitable and also beautiful when we can accept them as part of life. So she's ready to hold us, ground us as we go through so much transition as humanity. And she's grateful. I can feel her gratitude that we're in this course together, as messy as it is, because we're here for one another and for what wants to be born. And imagine that light coursing through your body, nourishing you. Now I want you to focus on your crown and imagine a shaft of golden white light coming down from way, way, way up high beyond infinity where you can't even see. And that's coming into your body from up above, because we need the energies from both directions. And that there's healthy ancestors and other beings who are showering down golden light upon our crown so that can permeate all parts of our body as well. And that they're opening up new chakras above our head that have not been available to many before, so that we can be more in communication with what we might know as our higher self, or whatever guides might be known to us. And that they celebrate and rejoice that you came here to offer a unique and beautiful and special gift to the collective, and that they wish to support you on whatever that purpose may be. And it may be different from what you've done before. Knowing that each one of us is held in these lights above and below to be in balance, to be our whole selves. And imagine that you can see the other dancers in this course in a circle around you. Perhaps we're in a meadow out under the sun with flowers all around us. And each one of us has our shafts of light below and above. And in between us is a beautiful fire. And we give thanks to the sacred fire that has held this circle, for all the things we've thrown into it that have wanted to be burned because they no longer serve us and the story of where we're headed together. And we thank the sacred fire. We thank each other for being in a circle so we could throw things into the sacred fire that would allow us to open up these channels below and above. So these shafts of light, each one of us represents on this earth. And imagine as you see that, the golden light from below, from above, the white lights from below, permeating every cell of your body, and particularly now bringing a white and soft pink light into your heart. And because you are filling up that tank with these energies above and below, that allows it to expand and extend a circle of light around you, emanating from your heart. And that in this circle, we're all emanating light in us and all around us, that we are the carriers of our own light and light bearers in the world, for our new world that wants to be born, where every day we dance with mountains and every day we dance with each other. And taking that light, that gratitude, knowing that we have all been through a challenging 2017 because so much has been asked to be shed to make way for the new in 2018. And this course was a raging fire and raging pile of compost to shed away the dross, to look at the shadows we didn't want to look at, to review the things that we're not ready to take, that we don't need to carry in with us into the new year. Because 2018 is a master creator year. Mama Earth wants us to create a new world with her. And she's ready. And we're still preparing, and she's being patient with us as we throw what no longer serves in the fire. To give thanks to that sacred fire, all the ways we have all shown up for ourselves and for each other. And all the ways perhaps we didn't know how. And knowing that all of it was okay. It just showed us a part of us that we're ready to work on or release. So as you continue to breathe in that space, that beautiful, beautiful space of light above, below, and in your heart, I'm going to ring a bell and say a few words that I want you to sit with as we close this session, this part of the opening. I allow my thoughts to be present. I allow myself to be present with my thoughts. I allow my feelings to be present. I allow myself to be present with my feelings. I allow my emotions to be present. I allow myself to be present with my emotions. I allow my body to be present. I allow myself to be present with my body. And as you prepare to come out of the meditation, I invite you to bring that golden light in your heart into our space together so that we may honor one another and celebrate each other. That we may honor the places where our comfort zones have been demolished, and to see that as a tremendous gift. And where we have been able to sit with self-compassion and self-love and understanding as we demolish those comfort zones. And then where we've been able to sit with others with compassion, love, and understanding as we demolish those comfort zones. And then where we might have some work to do to get more comfortable as comfort zones get demolished so that we can build something new amidst the rubble. And then I'm going to ask you to put your hands on your heart. And we'll do something we've done before. And just say, I am loved.
I am loved.
I am a blessing.
I am a blessing.
I am sacred just the way I am.
I am sacred just the way I am.
I have dignity.
I have dignity.
I have wisdom and gifts for the whole.
I have wisdom and gifts for the whole.
And then we'll do something with that later to honor each other. But for now, that'll get us here in the room with each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
So, Brenda, thank you for the generosity and the wideness of your heart, which goes to say and speak to the ancestors that have brought you here. So I also give thanks to them for saying, yes, our daughter, go to this place, and for not holding you back. So thank you, sister. And my other big sister is here, Erin. And yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so thank you, Brenda and Spirit, because the question that I had to pose for some open space to hear from some of you was, what are you present to now? So the end of that meditation was just perfect to invite each part of us to come into this call. And we really wanted today to create a lot of space to hear your voices. And if you didn't see the little note that I sent out on Thursday, for this open space, we have about 10 minutes just to invite anyone who's been like the solid witnessing mighty oak, you know, who maybe we haven't heard your voice, to think if maybe there's something that you have to offer from all of that noticing and watching and observing. And if you've been more like the babbling brook in these calls and we've heard your voice more, maybe just let yourself settle into a little eddy at the side of the river. And we'll just sit and really create space so that there's really room for all of the voices that want to be heard today. And there'll be more time after this to hear voices. So the question is, what are you present to now?
Hello, everyone. It's Jonathan here. I suppose I was enjoying the question, what are you present to? And I guess I'm present to 3 screens full of boxes of people. I've got 3 different Zoom boxes, and I scroll through. My goodness, what an extraordinary presence of humanity here introduced into my morning. And how little I know of each of you, and it's very, what I'm present to is how little I know of each of you and how much potentiality I experience scrolling through 3 boxes. It's quite, so I experienced that really viscerally, the potentiality as a real becoming. And so that's that's what I'm present to. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay, one more thing I have to share. The quality that I realized was right there that I wasn't able to articulate was the visceral presence of everyone, of not knowing much, but experiencing the possibility of at any moment being able to connect with someone and immediately start a conversation of depth and meaning around what we're doing without worrying about conversational weirdness coming into play. So the becoming feels like real invitation that extends far beyond the conclusion of whatever a course is.
Yes.
I'm present to the silence that we're in right now. And I'm present to being okay with silence. I'm also present to perhaps folks feeling shy with each other today, for whatever reason that might be. I'm present to the beautiful faces I'm seeing, and I'm present to the tentative energy that's here right now. And I send it love. I send it welcoming. And I'm grateful for the gifts you carry in the world, known and unknown to me.
I'd say I'm present to the confusion, to the anxiety and the feeling of not knowing within me.
Thanks, Priyanka. Great.
I'm present to today being the anniversary of me losing 36 members in my community, some of them good friends last year, and I'm not awake. It's this is a little bit earlier always than I wake up anyway, and I'm glad to be here with y'all, but it takes me a long time to come out of my dream world, sometimes many hours and sometimes a couple of days. So I'm very much with all of those people still, and with all of you. It's a kind of a strange experience for me right now.
Mm. Mm.
Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you. Very helpful for me to hear that from you. Something in me settled right down.
Good morning, everyone. Mayang buntag. It's interesting because this is the last morning course, and this is the most I am awake for this course today. I woke up at 5 actually. Well, my cat woke me up. And I've just been waiting for this beautiful time with God, which actually brings me clarity for myself and the work to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ling Ling.
I'm present to the healing power of laughter. That just when we get into this meditative swoon and we're communing and we're diving deep, the dog barks or the fan belt breaks on the dryer or something really mundane happens. And it's all you can do is laugh. And I know that if it happened to you, if I were with you, any of you, you would laugh right along with me. And it's so healing. That's all.
Thanks, Jane.
Mm.
Any last words that want to be spoken about what you're present to? And there's a lot of words and voices coming through in the chat too. So that's another place that you can feel free to share.
Well, this is Fran. I'm present to the diversity of awareness among us and the diversity of discomfort and pain among us. I'm present to our intensely unique intersectionality that's continuously breaking down what we thought was safe and rejoining somewhere else or reforming somewhere else. That we must be alive to those new places that are formed by Mother Earth for us to hold us. I'm more present to the complicity to patriarchy and to colonization in the mind.
Thanks, Fran. So I'm going to pass the talking stick over to our wonderful friend Isoke to give us some framing for this last class together and for some small group conversations that we'll be spending a good amount of time in today too. Thank you all for your voices and for your silence and for your presence. Isoke.
Hi, everyone. Well, I notice that I have butterflies in my belly. Someone very shy and furtive is here. That's unusual for me. But it's apropos given the frame that I want to offer you all. It's a tool. Use it or not. See if there's anything in it that might be helpful to you. In our opening, Brenda talked about, and has repeatedly reminded us that something new is trying to be here. Channels are trying to open that heretofore have been closed. And so in that meditation, as I was attempting to feel the light and the energy and experience it coming up from Mother and coming down from above, I was aware that that's challenging for me to do that. And then as we waited for people to, in open space, I wondered about the following. This is the teach. The concept that I think I've mentioned in this class before, but I want to focus on is the concept of gatekeeping. And as we waited for people to speak, I wondered if there were folks who wanted to speak but couldn't. If that was so, then that's what we would call gatekeeping. That's one manifestation of gatekeeping. When we feel unable to move on our impulses because there's a lot of message going on about it's not smart enough, nobody's going to understand what I said, I haven't fully thought it out yet, it's not, whatever, right? Maybe this is not the right moment for that. Maybe it's irrelevant. The gatekeeper is both a personal and a cultural dynamic. Culturally, it shows up as, I'll just try to keep it really light. Let's say Northern Californians and Southern Californians. Where Northern Californians might think Southern Californians are all about glitz and glamour and appearances and money and status and beauty. And Southern Californians may perceive us up here as tree-hugging, Birkenstock wearing, not that we're the opposite of them. Like, we're not as cool. You can tell that I don't know what the Southern Californians, what their gatekeeping is toward us, because I am a Northern Californian. Yeah. So I'm very much more clear about what my gatekeeping toward the South is than I am about what they think of us. So there's cultural gatekeeping, there's personal gatekeeping, and there's interpersonal gatekeeping. Lots of it. It happens in groups, it happens in couples, it happens intra-psychically. That's where it really happens the most. You could say that gatekeeping is how our experience gets colonized, where we introject, take in voices and attitudes from around us, and they become our inner prison guards. So from this idea of the gatekeeper comes a form that could be useful for folks that we call the basic triad. The basic triad is an exercise, an activity that's designed to help so what happens is that here I am, Isoke, right? I want to speak in open space. I have something I want to say, but my gatekeepers are saying whatever they're saying, and I'm becoming silent. I'm stuck. I can't speak. One of the other aspects of this triad is the friend. We get this term from Rumi. Friend, ally, higher power, whatever you want to call it. It's the part of us whose experience is never colonized. It's a part of us that knows the deep truth about our worth and our beauty. And it never holds what appears to be true about us against us. So I have a friend, but I am so confused about my identity. I think my identity is my gatekeeping. The gatekeeper, I believe, is who I am. So people, let's say you have a gatekeeper who says, "You sure are lazy." And someone says, "Well, I don't think you're lazy." And you say, "Yes, I am. I didn't do this and that and this and that. And I always let my laundry go too long and I da-da-da-da-da-da-da." Yeah? The subject, that's the subject position. That's the position that supports the gatekeeper. It actually has come to believe what the colonizer says about it. And the object of the basic triad is to break that connection and to have the subject focus its attention more on the friend, to be resourced from the friend instead of under the spell of the gatekeeper, who came about as a result of trauma in most cases, and not necessarily big dramatic trauma. It could be subtle things like where our being just didn't get affirmed. We're excited about something that we are called to, and nobody in the environment seems to notice that that's important to us. We experience that as a miss, and a story starts to develop about our worth. And the gatekeeper carries that story. And the idea is that, don't expect too much out of life because you'll get disappointed. Or don't let certain things in because they'll hurt you. So the gatekeeper has a function, but it has really gotten to be way too big for its britches in most cases. And the basic triad is designed to help tease that apart, for us to become more aware of how we're being driven by something that's not our true self. So I think I'll pause there. And ask, are there questions? Or thoughts or concerns or...
There was some question, Isoke, this is Fran. You went through the self, the friend, and the gatekeeper. Am I right? Of the triad?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I wonder, one of the drawbacks of this form, I suppose I could have come up with an activity so that you have an experience of it first, although we're all experiencing it all the time. And usually after people hear this, they're like, well, duh, yeah, you know. We hear about the gatekeeper as the critic, the inner critic in behavioral circles. But I prefer gatekeeper because the gatekeeper is not always critical. Sometimes it sounds like, oh, be careful. I don't want you to get hurt. So it has a complaining quality, but it also has a warning quality. Doesn't want us to get fired, so get your butt up and go to work. And I'm present to gatekeeping happening right here, right now with me as I attempt to do this. You know, gatekeepers saying, this is not clear enough. You should have had visuals, you know, whatever. Like, it's just constant. There's one of the ways you can know gatekeeping is happening is because there's an impossibility to what it's asking of us, because you can never be good enough, smart enough, whatever it's calling for, enough. Never worthy of approval. Right. So I think that the relevance of this conversation for our time is that gatekeeping is happening in 99% of our discourse about what's happening politically. Because one of the things that happens is that the gatekeeper will state facts. So it's usually factually accurate, or sometimes, or a lot of times it is, but it's not telling deep truth. So it will take facts from the environment and present them in a condemning way because it cannot hold the complexity. Gatekeepers cannot hold complexity. The friend can hold complexity. So the friend, when I'm tapped into the friend, I have much more space inside me for compassion, for even when I'm up against my biggest quote unquote enemy, I can see the enemy in a way that I cannot when I'm under the spell of gatekeeping.
I can perhaps add something. My husband and I recently went on a trip to Portland, Oregon, to visit my son and our grandson. And on the way back, we stopped in Reno because my husband wanted to visit with a person who he's been following online, who does a lot of work with this idea of what's coming, you know, as far as Planet X and changes on the planet and the rising of the oceans and how it's all going to be like end times and all this stuff. And he has a radio thing online and wanted my husband to help him with a blog, online blog. And he's talking about, we sat, had dinner together, and he starts talking about what his idea of this whole thing is, and how we need to learn how to be self-sufficient, how to take care of ourselves, how to grow food, how to this, that, and the other thing, store things, be in community. He started a church, he calls it church, of people who all are in awareness, as he puts it. And then he starts talking about how when the time comes, you have your community, and what would you do if someone in your community decided, I don't want to stay here, I'm going to leave? And I said, well, I'd have to know more about the situation and so on. And finally, he says, you would shoot to kill. Because if this person leaves the community and goes out and tells other people who are the hordes that are out there marauding and so on, they're going to come and steal all your stuff and steal all your secrets and steal all your food and all this stuff. And I'm like, whoa, this to me is a big example of the gatekeeper totally out of control, because this man doesn't have a sense of miracles can happen, faith, all these kind of, the spirit. We have to acknowledge that we're all one, even if we don't agree. And so that was a real interesting exchange to me. So I don't know if anybody else, it just seems like a real big example of a gatekeeper and a versus a friend. So
thank you, Marnie.
yeah.
So I would extend that by saying, well, that's a great example. And what happens for us when we're in that setting, when we're hearing somebody who sounds maybe like they're extreme? Let's say, use the term extreme. What happened for you?
What happened for me was I knew my heart couldn't go there with that paradigm. And I didn't want to offend anybody, so I just kind of said, well, I guess I'll have to think about that. Tried to be diplomatic or something. But it's and it made me realize that we have to deal with the tendency for, I mean, this is the whole thing, as I wrote in a Facebook post, the whole thing about colonization is constantly separating people, putting them into this camp and that camp, and different colors and different religions and different this and different that. And so this was like an extreme example to me. And I guess in retrospect, I probably need to write to this fellow and say, have you considered this or something like that? Because if you're going to go anyway, what it did to me was.
Well, let me just ask the group, the group that's present here right now, how were you affected by hearing this story, if at all? What voices came up in you? What reactions came up in you right away?
I thought that he was a nut job.
Okay, right? Now, what do we do with that? What we do with that is about this basic triad. So imagine this basic triad, right? Because this is a cultural example of gatekeeping. This is how it shows up culturally. So your first thought is, this is a nut job. Whose voice is that? Which position is that coming from? Let me put it that way.
That's the gatekeeper.
Okay, I'm in agreement. Yeah, right?
Okay,
Hillary, how would the friend mediate that dynamic inside of you? I know this is like really asking for a lot since we don't have much foundation built here, but what would the friend, how might the friend react to this or respond to this dynamic?
I heard a lot of fear, and it, for me, just that framing of being that person talking about a situation where you have this community and if somebody leaves, you shoot them. It sounds to me like that's just coming from trauma, and that's coming from this complete survival space. And so it just, and it feels very close up. And so I think the friend is the the person that can kind of open the imagination a little bit and go, well, what are the other parts of this story, and what are the, you know, and I mean, even just in looking at this person as they're talking about this, you know, what's the trauma that has taken them there? What got shut off for them? So that's where I come from.
Beautiful. Any other couple more?
When I was listening, I was hearing a lot of similarities between my own thoughts about community and bringing people together and working the land, being self-sufficient. But then when self-sufficiency came to the exclusion of others, that's where there was a divergence. So my reaction was, yeah, he definitely went off onto a tangent, but there's things that we hold together as valuable. And is there room there to have a conversation, to find to bring that piece that went off to the side? Can we bring that in a little bit so that we can work together? That's what I was thinking.
Thank you, Dawn. One more?
Something came to mind was a kind of dual dynamic of trying to be the self position, trying to be as most detached as I can. And I was thinking, who is the friend? What is the need? What are the needs that need to be met in this situation? Who the friend? Who does the friend needs? Whose needs does the friend need to meet the most? The most needs were that gatekeeper's needs, and that gatekeeper was that man almost. Yeah, it was, and how to remain curious and not be triggered in myself in order to have the friend. So the friend can be both a friend to me if I'm really triggered, and it can also be a friend to be able to detach and see him as well outside of my own sort of presence and think, what would the friend say in compassion or something?
Beautiful.
To open that.
Beautiful. So the friend does not live in a state of fear, so it has access to a lot of imagination. This fear is the biggest constrictor of imagination. So the friend can say, wow, what an interesting idea to do this. I certainly have had times when I felt like I needed to bear down and make sure and keep the world out. Yeah, that's a familiar feeling to me. No outsiders in here. Yeah. But I was thinking about some people I know who wouldn't be part of this community, and I certainly wouldn't want to see them get shot. Anyway, the whole idea is that the friend, I'm not doing that great a job of it right here in this moment, but the friend gives us access to flexible intelligence, infinitely flexible intelligence, because it isn't fear-based. And because, as you pointed out, it's like it wants to keep everything in relationship, right? Keep everything in relationship. So it's serving the relationship, not just this one or that one. How do we serve this relationship? Because we seem to not be able to get free from our relationships, whether we believe it or not, or want to or not. We're in relationship. That guy who wants to do that, even though he hasn't been on my radar screen until this morning, he is in my world. He is in my psyche. He is part of my future. And I can't exile him as much as some part of me wants to, really. So I need to cultivate this friend. Cultivate this friend. How do I cultivate this friend? in the stillness, when fear is present. If I get still, that's a step for me in the right direction. But the gatekeepers never want to be still. They want to act. They want to have the first and the last word. So stillness is an antidote.
I have a question, if I may. Where does the willingness of the, quote, other come into play in all this? Willingness or lack of?
Say a little more.
I'm always, well, I'm thinking of divorce situations, where two people just can't seem to communicate, or there's, I know of someone who recently said, I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. I'm leaving. And the whole thing fell apart. There was no willingness to cultivate friendship or relationship. Or to budge on an issue or whatever. That's what I'm wondering about, because I feel like there is so much taking of strong stands and not being willing to bend or be flexible at all. And maybe that's within the self as well. I don't know. And that's where I start talking about, well, miracles happen, that kind of thing. But I wonder what everybody else thinks about that.
Well, we will do these things. We will, and I put a lot of this in quotes, we will betray each other. We will abandon each other. We will, those things will continue to happen. This is not a, how do we make people be different? It's, how do I cultivate an inner environment that allows me to respond with as much compassion, with as much of myself as I can? Because those things are going to continue to happen. It's not this is not about how can I make other people be different. But when I am coming from this place of spaciousness within and authenticity within, I stand a much better chance of maintaining an alliance with someone who wants to give up, who just wants to throw in the chips and bolt. Because for one thing, if I can respond to that person from a place that's not contemptuous, that gives them the room to have a different experience, possibly. I'm a little wondering about where everyone is, and Aaron, we were supposed to do some small group work.
Yeah. The small groups are already, they're all set up. And I know that the idea was to link this framing and this idea about this course, like our experiences of this course, with this framework, and trying to really reflect on our experiences from the position or perspective of the friend. But I'm working on battling my gatekeeper right now and my white person watch. So whatever, just let me know. But the small groups are ready to go whenever.
Let me just tell the group what we planned at this point. So the idea here was to go into small groups and to come up with, to share with each other from the friend perspective what we what we got from the course, what our learnings were, what the gifts were. We don't want the gatekeepers to have the final say in this. At least I wouldn't. Because anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But oftentimes we end with gatekeeping, especially relationships. Like, now that I'm not going to see you anymore, let me tell you how disappointed I am in you. Or there's just a way that our experience as part of being colonized is to take away the joy and the beauty of things. That's one of the things that gatekeeping does. So my idea was that you would go into the small groups and you would come up with, it's not that they have to be sugar-coated. It's not about that. It's about, even when you have to say something hard, you say it from a place of wisdom, right? It comes from a place of wisdom. We're asking for the wise one inside to speak, for the teacher, for the sage, for the... I think you know what I mean. Do you? I mean, if there's someone who's like, no, I totally don't get what you mean, just say it out loud. Say it out loud so it'll help us. Don't feel bad about it. Or do you get this? How can we? This is one of the limitations with this form, yeah? It's hard to take.
In the chat space, there's a lot of resonance.
Okay.
And activity. So it shows there's deep listening, and everyone that is speaking out and trembling with fingers and typing stuff, it's all welcome. It's part of the wisdom and genius of this moment.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bio. Because I cannot do this and watch the chat. I'm totally not connecting to the chat. Okay, so then we thought, each person would take, how much time do we have, will they have now that we've gone over? Erin, how much time?
We'll just figure that out when we get to the point of going into the small group.
Okay, so we're going to go into the small groups. Each person is going to share your wisdom about the course with each other. And the hope was that out of this, you could actually come up with a poetic something from your group. It might be one poetic phrase from each person in the group, or it could be the group could come up with a poetic something. We want this to be poetic, if possible. Metaphoric, whatever, coming out. So that is all I have to say at this point. Can you take it, Erin?
Yeah. So the invitation would just be, we'll take about 20 minutes in the small groups, and there's going to be there'll be groups of about 5. And if we need to push it a little bit further, we will. But the idea would be to share from this perspective of the friend, the inner sage, what this experience was for you, and then to co-create some kind of a poetic harvest. And the sharing back to the big group will just be reading that. And so you could have one person who shares, or you could all figure out a way if you wanted to collectively share back to the big group. So are you guys ready to be whisked away? Okay, here we go. So a little pop-up window will open that says you want to join a breakout group, and then you will go there. And I'll send you guys messages around how the time is going.
And what about us?
We're going to stay right here, Isoke. Okay. We won't be whisked away. All right, here you go. And when the 60-second warning comes up, you don't have to click that. If you click on anything at the end when it's telling you have a minute left, you'll be brought back to the main room. So just don't touch anything when that happens. You can have an extra minute.
Can I make a suggestion? This is Brenda. Okay, just knowing that it's 20 minutes and you've got 5 people, it might be good to ask people to share in no more than 3 minutes. Yeah. Because you'll have 5 minutes to kind of craft your thing together that's a little piece of everybody's. Yeah. And also that if someone wants to take the role of timing and somebody else wants to take the role of the trying to harvest or synopsize, it might help in that process.
That'd be great. And I'll let you guys know about how time is passing, and if we need a little extra time, we can go ahead and take it too. So thanks so much, Brenda.
Thanks, Brenda.
Here we go.
We're magic. We've gone small now.
Wow.
How cool is that?
It's amazing.
Who's this fabric over here? Oh, Fran. Fran, are you here?
Those are the folks who aren't present in their computer, and so they haven't clicked on the join breakout group yet. I think it's just Fran now.
Where'd Bio go?
Ammonia. He wanted to be in a group. Hi, Fran. We went into small groups. There she goes. And Monia, I don't know, maybe she's away from her computer.
And Christopher too.
Christopher is very tired and wants to just be here with us.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm here.
Okay. Hi. Oh my God, I am just shaking, you guys. I'm shaking.
How are you? It was wonderful. I love the way you did that.
You don't even know. You don't even know. It's like, this is why you can't be a professor, because you can't keep your shit together. Honestly, it's like the gatekeeper.
That's your gatekeeper.
It's so intense. Yeah.
Maybe if you teach gatekeeping, you become one.
No, I've had this. I mean, really. Oh, Lord.
But you named it. You named it for us. You were amazing.
Okay, so the main thing you think they got the point? They got it? I mean, we all know this stuff. It's just the language we put with it, right? But the phenomena have been here forever. So people are like, yep, I know that. Oh, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
I think
sorry.
No, it's just that in the context of what has recently happened in the class, where there was a lot of gatekeeping, and it's been difficult to process, and people are feeling very tentative and nervous about how to move on from there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
introducing the easy.
So I think it's normal for people to feel kind of unsure.
Trying to wake you up, Chris.
Was it? Thanks, Jürgen.
How are you, Eve?
I'm just happy to see you all and be here. Thank you. Just feeling like I belong. Not gatekeeping at all.
Beautiful. Give me some of that.
Yeah, but I loved what you said. I said, okay, when you said the gatekeeper often takes away the joy and the beauty from things. You said it towards the end, and I felt that that so often happens, you know. So I just love that. And what Leni says now is the group is doing it a little bit, and you were so perceptive to the silence, and that slide got a bit heavy. So I think that was just. I agree with Leni with what she said. Yeah.
I thought it was helpful too, the piece you said about not sugarcoating it, that it's about trying to find that place of wisdom, because there's been so much talk in the class about bypassing, and I could see how some people would perceive this friend role as a bypass, which is, obviously it's not. So that little piece there was helpful in that respect, I think.
Thank you. Yeah. I was glad that, it was like it came in on a wave. Don't, like this, because I know people are concerned about that.
Yeah.
And we do sometimes have a pseudo friend. Yeah. Especially in Western culture, it's like nicey nice or pretentious or you know what I mean? So
Sometimes it's also just so fun to be the gatekeeper, to just say,
oh my God.
nutball or whatever. You know.
It's so much fun. How you doing, Jürgen?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Semi-conscious, but I'm doing okay. You know, I love what you're doing. You know, I think this is great stuff. And I don't know, you know, in retrospect, should we have talked about stuff like that, you know, earlier to give people, you know, tools to navigate. You know, these are really tools to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, I see the gatekeeper so often as being so ferocious in our culture, you know, so the judgmentalism and, you know, all that stuff where people just can't move and don't dare to make a mistake, you know, and that's so hard, you know, and, yeah. So yeah, we could probably do this for a very long time.
Yeah. The word, I couldn't think of the word, it just came. This just drives me crazy. Anyway, the word that I kept looking for was disidentify, right? That we're overly identified with the gatekeeping. And the process of doing this triad work helps disidentify, helps the subject to disidentify from the gatekeeping.
Well, that's so important because, excuse me, you know, so often we are taught that if we totally identify with the gatekeeper, we get it right and then we're doing well. You know, and that's the path for, you know, doing well and all of that. Well, in fact, it's leading into suffering and pathology ultimately.
Yeah. Say more about that. How?
Well, because then, you know, the gatekeeper can be really cruel and, you know, you disconnect from yourself. I mean, you know, I think what you just said about disidentification, you know, where we don't identify with, you know, our urges, our creative impulses, our, you know, sources inside, but we, you know, whatever, you know, what Jung also calls, you know, persona, you know, that what we present to the outside rather than, you know, connecting and paying attention to the inside.
Yep.
So it seems like the gatekeeper is, in terms of like, it's disconnecting from ourselves, but also from other people. Like it's cutting those relational connections that we need to move through difficulty.
Yeah, I think what you talked about, you know, the constructive side of the gatekeeper, you know, where the gatekeeper is kind of a protector. You know, that role isn't, you know, so often doesn't get developed in that way, but it becomes more whatever rigid. And maybe I'm just saying that because I'm German.
No.
You know, that's kind of a part of the Germanic.
It would be fun, though, you know, at some point to kind of see if we could get a sense about cross-culturally how gatekeeping varies. You know, the tone, the quality, the ways that, the kinds of things that it says based on this culture or that culture, right? Like, I mean, this is sort of random, but say like from my culture, when I was growing up, if you couldn't dance, that would draw a lot of gatekeeping toward you. Because the high value on rhythm and being able to dance well, like, you know, and that I imagine that's not a big gatekeeping voices in some cultures, but it sure wasn't mine.
Not in Germany.
So Justine, hi. Did you realize that we went into, you're muted, but did you realize that we went into breakout groups? And it's fine for you to be here, but I just wonder if you missed it.
Or maybe you were in, I think you might have been in a group, Justine.
No, I just signed in and I'm seeing a message that says, please wait to be assigned. So
Okay.
I'm just waiting to be assigned. Sorry, I'm
bad luck. You landed up with us.
dropping in here.
Yeah, because you could have our group if you know, we've all checked in. What is that sound?
I think there's some background noise for her.
I think it's the frogs in Aaron's room.
Oh yeah, I have like a whole pond of frogs back here. No, I think it might be Justine's internet. Justine, were you in a group already, or you just showed up? No.
She just showed up. Then.
She said she just signed in.
Okay.
She needs to be assigned.
Well, I wonder if that, I mean, we could also just stay here and create something collectively, because I feel like it may really, they're in about the middle of the time right now. So maybe we just share a little bit and we create something as a group ourselves. I don't know how that feels for you. Is that okay with you, Justine? Can you hear? I don't know if she can hear.
I have trouble listening to you. It's breaking up a lot. I don't know how it is on your side. So I think it might be my side that's low quality audio. But please keep going. I'll figure out my end here and I'll pop right back in.
Okay.
We can hear you fine now. I don't know how we are for you.
Okay. It sounds really horrible. So,
Your connection.
why don't I'm gonna log back. I'm gonna log out and log back in. So that might help.
We'll be here.
It's fun to watch you, Eve, just cracking up over there. The crones on the call.
Sorry. I'm so sorry that I just burst right there. And I can't hear all of you, so I'm gonna
log out and then log back in.
Okay. Well, there are frogs.
Yes. Yes, I will.
Okay.
I'm reading the chats.
Yeah, I think this discussion about, you know, how gatekeepers are culturally different is certainly interesting to me. And I think, you know, where are the gatekeepers oriented? You know, is it oriented towards the self or, you know, towards the world out? And, you know, where does it come from? You know, so yeah.
Well, that was one of the questions in the chat is it external or internal? You know, for me, my gatekeeper is my inner critic has a very loud voice. but that makes me very careful when to speak, you know. And I almost typed in on the chat while Isoke was talking that I wanted to apologize if I had inadvertently acted as a gatekeeper in class, in this course. And I don't know if I have, but I recall that one session where I opened up, and then I was followed by Mylene and Lisa, and that was the beginning of the breaking kind of breaking open things in the class. And when I look back at that incident, what I was actually saying was something personal to me, like saying, because English is not my first language, I feel it's very challenging to think and talk at the same time, and very often I cannot say what I'm really thinking, da 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 da. But that was also a sign, then that became a sign to Lisa and Leng to talk about how they felt in the class. So was that gatekeeping? You know, I don't know. But from then on, including Jay's postings, there were gates being set up, you know. But I don't know, are they really gates, or is it just the conversation that is difficult?
Well, I think when we say I, you know, we're not gatekeeping because, you know, if I talk about my experience, you know, for myself and explore it, then I don't think that's gatekeeping. But if I say, well, you made me do this, or you made me feel this, I think then we're getting into the gatekeeping, and then the conversation gets difficult because then, you know, I mean, fear comes in and people worry, can I say this? And if I say this, does it mean that? You know, but I think, you know, that's when, you know, we tried to shift it to the storytelling. You know, part of that was getting it back to, you know, that connection with the inner source as the I, rather than, you know, you, you know, and this is what it means when you say that, you know, those kinds of, you know. So I don't think when you share an experience that is gatekeeping, you're just talking about, but I may take it as gatekeeping, but that's me. That's
right,
not,
exactly.
you know, I can make it into a gatekeeper inside, but that has nothing to do with you.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, someone else's truth telling can activate my gatekeeping. And that's what happens a lot of times in these conversations, especially about gender and race and, you know, the big social areas, right?
And when we talk from that kind of flexible and infinite intelligence was the words you used, Professor, so beautifully. When we talk from there, then it feels like that's the spaciousness, the space, the fields that Rumi talks about. You know, when I'm in that grass, and where the soul is in that grass, the world is too full to talk. So it seems, well, we're super good at the gatekeeping, and I love what Christopher wrote, the gate I kept me in. But it's also probably really important not to dualize it too much, you know, those gates can open into the field, you know,
yes.
And gates can open, and I think that Leni, it says to me, it's right, sometimes the authentic conversation is just a little bit difficult, and then if we name it gatekeeping too quickly, then it's pathologized, you know. So I'm not saying people well, but it's hard to find the field of this infinity where we could talk with our awareness, with our consciousness, and be silent with that fullness in your tummy. And then what Jürgen says, our experience, when we tell that story or our story, it doesn't stab into the other's heart, or their story doesn't stab into my heart. It rather opens my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Or I know those experiences with me, and wow, you can face the hardest things, but it's from that place
Yep.
of,
Yep.
you know what I mean? That place
Yeah.
of love. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that faux pas, whatever you want to call it, that thing that happened with me where I shot an arrow from the place of gatekeeping. It was like, what was the gatekeeping? It was like in that call we had as a group, as a team, and I was hearing how, hard it was for everyone. I became like, the crusader. I'm gonna get these kids in line. I'm the father. I'm the dad who came home from work and mom said they did this and they did this and they did this and they did this, and I'm like, where's my belt? I'm gonna get them. They're all gonna get a switch and and then and I just let it go. I allowed my gatekeepers free reign. And then the backlash from that, right? Because of all the inner work that's been done, the backlash is what evoked the friend. Like, I need to find the friend because I cannot live with the gatekeeping. I can't live with the effects of what the gatekeeper has wrought. And I need relief, and the relief comes from the friend. So that letter of accountability was completely without defensiveness, and that I couldn't have done without the friend. So yeah, I mean, we do unleash our gatekeepers from time to time, and it's another opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, which is really what this is about, right? Strengthening our self-observation so that we can see, what is touched and are mindful, of that and learn.
I like self-observation better than reflexivity.
Yeah. Yeah. Reflexivity sounds
too
mental
abstract
only.
or something.
Yeah, sounds mental only.
Mm-hmm. What are you smiling about, Lenny? Oh, unmute yourself.
When I hear the emphasis on the self, self-observation, the kapwa side of me kicks in, because I know that myself is connected to the other, and sometimes just trying to assert myself can be considered being insensitive to someone else. This is our family dynamic. I have 5 sisters, and whenever I'm being honest and talking from just for myself and asserting my individuality, inevitably all my other sisters will say, stop being so selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when you're being that way, you affect me this way, and then I need to change, and then I need to be reflexive about that.
Thank you.
So I need to go ahead and bring those guys back. It's been about 23 minutes now.
Okay, what do we do? What's the very next thing?
To hear their harvest. So hopefully we can compress a little bit. If you could hold that piece, okay, that would be great. Jürgen, if we can do the visualization in the shortest amount, I'm just gonna let it go, and I just don't want to hold it.
And I will need to bring Freya to a German class at
the hour
right after 9. So I will
yeah.
have leave.
That's fine.
What time is it now?
It's
8:28.
Yeah, 8:30. We have a half an hour.
I
But
can
I'm
do
gonna
it
go.
very briefly.
Yeah. So let's do the harvest, and then it's Jurgen's visualization. So we don't have any risk of losing you. Like 10 minutes, and then I think the thing is going to just be compressing this appreciation and bios piece to the very
Okay.
end.
Okay, guys, I know we need to bring them back, but my class starts right at 10 and I haven't taken a shower. Would it be horrible if I got off at 10 to 9?
No, I think it's fine. I mean, whenever you have to go, and we'll work it out. I'm just going to let it go and let it flow.
It'll be great. It will.
Yeah.
Let go and let God?
Yeah,
Thank
go
you.
let God. Sorry, it's a big challenge for me, this whole navigating.
So amazing.
You're doing it beautifully. You're doing it beautifully. I
Like
never
to find the flow is like,
oh, everyone's coming back. Cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, I kept recording during that whole conversation too. Everyone who watches the recording will see our own conversation. I forgot to put it on pause.
Or they can just see us being vulnerable.
That's right. Welcome back.
We're back.
How many groups were there?
There were 7 groups in total.
Okay.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I think we are all back.
Cool. Welcome back, everyone. And we're going to draw on our German roots here. We're going to be fishing. We are not going to be African right now, or Filipino.
Why? Why?
Because I'm half kidding, but what I really mean to say is that it would be great if we could hear from every group. So that is more likely to happen from our German genes. Is it okay if I play with you all?
Of course.
All righty.
I love it. It's okay.
So I am Helga.
Hey, that's my grandmother's name.
Anyone who knows me knows that this would be the hardest reach for me of all of them to draw on my German ancestry. Maybe you could help me, Jürgen.
Okay.
So I think the first thing is we have 7 groups, yes? And how can we do this? What if I just ask someone who I see on the screen, like Rio? Is it Rio?
Hey, yeah.
So So your group? Can you report for your group?
I can report from my group, and our group is a little bit messy. So I'm reporting, and then Aaron's going to chime in after I give my little harvest.
How did I know you were?
I don't know, because my legs were shaking and my heart was racing. I don't know.
Wow.
Smell it, probably. Okay. We all shared beautiful.
Let us all just take a moment to just 10 seconds to breathe and be ready. Make ourselves ready. Okay.
That did not help. I'm chewing on my heart now.
Okay.
So there's little infusions of all of us in something that I wrote while contemplating this friendship relationship yesterday. So I'll share with you. Something of a greater calling was the question. This has felt like dancing with a mountain, an old, immovable, wise one, blowing on a flightless bird. I did think at first that this course would leave me somehow with a way, or an affirming sense of cohesion and some flavor of better days. And I can say that I have been bettered, and then unbettered again, and left with a murky smile. More of my fantasies about academia having a corner on better and that all I need to do is get there, that's been shattered by the railing humanity that I've witnessed in this Facebook world of chaotic attempts of achievement. For this shattering, I am so grateful. It's let me let go of this race again for a little while. It seems that we all bore the weather, all strangers yet strangely connected. Each one's words, tears, silences, optimisms, creating the perfect storm. The greater calling, maybe to have experienced great unsurety, that the very little stable footing here, and to figure that maybe that it's proper, that we must falter, that we must fall into an unseen net to trust in the glimmering silken starlit threads that are cast to us from dark belongings.
I want to ask if we could just hum just for 5 seconds, just hum after each share. Erin, were you going to add?
I just have a few phrases that came from our group that I'll share. It's really brief. And Rio, I have to say that was even better the second time. I hope you'll post it so we can revisit. It's gorgeous. The longing for you. All I want to do is get in this mess with you. Intimate activism. The unlearning journey. In glittery giant font. The world is like a tree too wide to wrap our arms around. Calling something a monster is the highest compliment, and getting an award or an uncertificate for just continuing to show up.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, Hillary, what group were you in?
I was in a group with Shante, who is our recorder.
Shante, where are you?
I'm here, and I'll just kind of throw out the metaphors. A couple people talked about the group as an anchor, and somebody said it was like following a There's this longing to look out of other people's windows. And I think this kind of question that came in different ways for us of like, what is outside of this little frame? And the ways we talked about platforms and the ways that kind of what the container is shapes the conversation. And have we excluded actually what we wanted to talk about in some ways? What is the connection to place, and where is the nature alive? And this phrase, diffracted sudden community, that it's this intimacy and it goes away so quickly. And this longing for sustained community and kind of this taste of what's missing and what isn't there. And then I wondered, Hillary, would you be willing to share even just a fragment of your piece? Because I feel like it resonated deeply with everybody.
Sure. Which part resonated with you?
Definitely the spider's web.
Okay.
And maybe the ending of it, actually.
Okay. My elders taught me other ways of knowing. These ways they conveyed without books, articles, or tests. Smiling, they hushed my questions and asked me not to take notes. They transmitted a state of being without the use of instructions, prompts, workshops, or screens. Instead, they told me stories and interpreted my dreams. The methodology of my elders took root by sitting alone under a juniper tree for many days, by tending a fire all night, by speaking with water. It dreamt me into singing to the stars under a full moon. It unlearned me into the lap of my grandmother, who is a mountain. Only the technology of flowers was needed. My elders' methodology mimics that of a spider who weaves a web. She captures what she needs through the genius of her design.
I'd like to bring in. Let's do it. Let's bring in our spider.
Yes.
I want to bring in our spider. So Anna, I learnt, was a mother, and she knows this song called "Incy Wincy Spiders." We have to do the actions. No, come on. Is everyone going to stand up? You have to. Anna, go on, do your singing.
It should be
When
Vanessa, actually. She is her class.
Down
came
the
rain and washed the spider out. Oops. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the itsy bitsy spider ended up the
We're going back to kindergarten, guys.
Yeah, where it's at.
That's good.
The children have all the wisdom.
They do.
Okay, David.
Where's Linda?
What's that?
David, were you in that last group just now?
No. I was in a different...
Elise's, David and I were in the group with...
Yeah, I was in the group with Brenda.
With Brenda, okay.
Yeah.
And Elise is our record keeper.
Okay.
So I was the record keeper, and oh gosh, I feel so unpoetic after those last couple of shares. But I pretty much just transcribed what people were saying, and there are some threads that run through all of it, so maybe I'll do this that way. I think everyone spoke about inner shifting, questioning of boundaries and visions, and the issue of taking space, holding space, sharing space, and for some of us wondering feeling like we don't know whether we're supposed to be checking ourselves or sharing ourselves. So David asked, how can we as people with our inadequacies come together? How can we come together? and in ourselves. How can we come together in our own selves with our messy lives? Flora identified a threefold thing that went a little bit beyond the rest of us, I think, in scope. She said that there are three things that have been present for her in the course. One being playfulness, acceptance. One being the hauntedness, which carries so much wisdom. And one being the notion, again, of holding space. I think that kind of summarizes, unless anyone else wants to like unmute themselves and add. And I like how Brenda ended her share. She said, in questioning the degree to which we identify as this, that, versus experiencing some amount of dissolving of all that and wondering to what degree does that matter. Brenda asked, she said, all are welcome at the fire, and none of it is wrong. So how do we set that tone?
I was wondering if David could share, I think there was 2 or 3 questions he had in his thing that he wrote, that and they were, how do we do this without that or something? Hopefully it'll be really obvious what I'm talking about, David. And you'll have to unmute yourself. But I was wondering if you could share those questions, because they really resonated for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to look at what I was writing, because I sat last night and I wrote a whole lot of pages. I guess kind of got into that. You know, I was mainly, you know, I'm asking, how can we come together as people, you know, as humanity in this sort of messy and fragile and inadequate ways that we find ourselves. And, you know, myself in the same messy, fragile, inadequate ways I find myself. How can we come together? And it doesn't necessarily mean not disagreeing with each other. You know, I feel that our world is in a very fragile place in time, and we need each other. And I ask myself, how can we come together in this world where people dehumanize each other, and you know, I look at myself and all that, I'm right, you're wrong, we're right, they're wrong. I feel this is my questioning of how can we come into a place with each other and hold that space for each other, even in places where we may have things that we can't necessarily agree on, or always feel that we can even be there to listen to. It's like,
And David, sorry to interrupt you, but there were 2 or 3 specific questions you wrote in the piece that you wrote, and maybe it will be hard to find, but it was something like, how can we do this without doing that? How can we do this without doing that? There were 2 or 3 questions that were very specific like that. And I wish I had wrote them down, but I was so listening. I couldn't stop listening. And if you can't find it, that's okay.
Yeah. I think it was really around these things I'm just saying right now. You know, how can we disagree but don't have to disrespect? How can we disagree but we don't have to disregard each other?
That was it. Okay.
Disagree
without disregard. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to my awesome group.
So nice, so nice. Okay, dear friends, I have to tell you that I start another class in very shortly, and I haven't showered yet. So I need to pass the torch to someone who will complete for me. And I apologize for that, but both classes happened on the same day. This is the third time. So anyway,
Great.
thank you for giving me an opportunity to expand my heart and to have my heart be broken and to find in that brokenness more capacity to love. Thank you for listening to my stories and my singing and my fumblings. And I do not want to end. I do not want to disconnect. But who's going to take it forward?
We got a hum for you, sisters, please.
Hum for you, and then Brother Jürgen, our German ancestor, would come in and do something.
I would love to hear from any and everyone. Blessed be.
Love you.
Love you, Auntie Soke.
Love you, Auntie Soki.
I
We'll make
love
sure all the
you.
groups get heard. Don't worry.
Thank you.
We love you.
Bye.
Thank you so
to
much.
you, Soke. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Brother Jürgen.
Did all the groups get to go?
Yeah.
Did that happen? No.
Okay.
I could offer what I can. We had a pretty intense, amazing session. I loved what everyone said. I guess some of the things that came up is what is the greater thing that you're called to do, or moving outside self, outside the way that we see ourselves is always painful. And in a way, what Isoke said, and what David said, and requires a great deal of learning how to self-care, how to be in that space, not just sort of intellectually bombard ourselves, but to stay in the heart and bring spirit down, shift into a spiritual receptivity, and make our humanity bigger. But of course, that's what happens when we break ourselves open and grow. And let the gatekeeper step a little bit back and allow the friend to be within as well as without. Is there anything anyone else wants to add from the group that I've missed? Or to, yeah, Jonathan?
Nope, I was giving you thank you thumbs up sign.
Okay. And we cried.
Thank you, Fran. Thank you. Can we hum for that group? Someone who spoke there. So yeah, we have group 7 and group 5. I don't know how the names came to be, but there you go.
Group 7. I suddenly feel moved to infuse we, even though I want to respect the individual that made this a collective. We, our feet held to the fire, terrible, tragic parts of humanity that have been shown to me, being in community with powerful, articulate WOC. We are permanently altered, grateful in the presence of brilliant people, unhinged, alive. Healing can come to us like a flash of lightning. What matters is we saw something that we weren't able to see before. We are leaving with more questions than we came in with. We require an integration of how to stay connected in, as Martin Luther King said, the beloved community in these very challenging conversations. The friends gave definition to things we only just feel. My evolution has led me to this class. We are less alone in yearning to work for a just world. Rather than through the mind and senses, what are we really remembering? We are activating relationship with spirit. If anyone in my group wants to add.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So just before the other brothers and sisters speak, I just wanted to invite Big Brother Jürgen, who also has to go. He had promised to roar here, and I want to hear how that. I want to know how that feels or sounds. So we'll still have our share. I want to assure everyone that things are not going according to plan, time-wise.
Surprise.
And that's a good thing. So we'll just sit with the messiness of things. But Brother Jürgen, please, brother.
Thank you, Bayo. I just want to invite you to a brief visualization, and I'll be doing some chanting while you're doing that. So first, I want to invite you to close your eyes, and in your inner eye, with all your senses, put yourself in a place that feels safe and nourishing, a place that you might go to replenish. And I'm going to chant shortly, and while I'm chanting, keeping your eyes closed, I just want you to see if there is an image, something that emerges for you that captures where you're at with everything, all the messiness, all the beauty, everything that has happened here. If there is an image that captures that for you or that comes up for you now. And then, whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and I will get off the train, this messy, wondrous, magical train, and say goodbye and thank you to everybody for what you've shared and the beauty that was created here. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Jürgen.
Thank you, Jürgen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jürgen.
Jürgen, where did you learn overtone singing? I have to know.
I'm from another planet.
Lots of people do it on this planet.
Me too.
He
So
was
we'll
born
talk
with
about that.
Another conversation.
Another conversation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we're definitely above German time now. But let's share. There are some other groups that want to share, so let's do that. And if you can wait, then I invite you to.
Our group still has to share.
Yeah. Yes, I think it was a group 5 and 4 or something like that.
I don't even know. So I will read some slivers of the reflections that were shared in our group. Staying at the edge. Experiencing that I don't know a lot. Trying to express without having the words to express. Sitting in the mess, staying in the fire. Intensity. I wonder if the others understand. Culture shock. Can I look beyond my judgments? How am I getting in my own way? Embarking on a learning journey. Learning new terminology. Learning how to be stuck cannot be too different from learning how to die. That last sentence is a quote from one of Bio's emails. Seeking out the triggering relationships and practicing being a friend instead of running away. I feel like I've eaten too much and my stomach doesn't know what to digest first. A chaotic, weird festival. A lot to learn. Pushing each other's buttons. Grateful to those willing to jump into the fray. Being comfortable with silence.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you to everyone who spoke there. Let's unmute our mics and hum for that. I want to carry on with Antisoke's spirit here.
Okay. I think it's time for our group.
Yes, good.
I'll be brief. Our group have a lot of confusion and shyness and fear of imperfection and regret and many things together. And I think the joy of being in the group is that we all learn to accept it. And so we have a visual offering for all of you that I just linked. So I invite you to close your eye for a second, and then when I ask you to open your eyes, you will see a link. So now, just put all of that in, all the messy fear, shyness, desire, perfection, regret, sorrow, all that, and I the image for our group.
Where is it? I don't see it.
I don't see it too.
It's in the chat. If you go
there it is.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I love it.
Cake, shit, butter, and butterflies. Okay.
Yeah, and the picking shit.
Love it. Love it.
Let's hum for that.
Yeah, he looks happy, you know?
I love
He's
the
happy.
mud on his snout.
Oink, oink, oink. Oink, oink.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for the humor. It's always good.
That felt humorous and sacred all at once.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I wonder if there's still anything to be said. We're way out of plan. We're just in a unusual terrain. So, Erin.
I surrender.
Me too. Me too. Is there a space for gift on certificates here? I don't think there's the sharing of on certificates. Is that supposed to happen?
We had talked about creating a space for acknowledging allies or others who have been important, teachers, mentors, friends in this course. But maybe we could just create a space for that elsewhere.
Right.
And then, Bio, you had some closing words, unclosing words. Yeah. And yeah, great ideas. The chat is so active. And then, of course, Kuyen is going to lead us in a crazy dance party at the end. So he doesn't know that yet.
And I thought this would be a good place for Tita to share about the huge party that is happening, to the exclusion of people like me in India and Africa. Tita, you want to say something about your party?
Well, December 30th is when Erin is coming to the Bay Area. So all you folks that are in the Bay Area and would love to come to Santa Rosa at my house, please put it on your calendar, December 30th, between 12 and 5, right, Erin? Yeah. So, and those of you who are not from the Bay Area and you would like to fly in, come on over. We live in beautiful wine country, so just let
If
me
I
know.
were rich, I'd be there, Lenny, at a drop.
I know.
Or if money came from Mars.
Yeah. Well, we'll need to find a way of organizing something so that we can all fly in somewhere and meet each other face to face, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess this is the point at which I say something wise and profound. But for the life of me, I have nothing. I really don't know what to say. So these are not final words of any sort. These are not profound words. There's just a deep, textured silence where words are supposed to be. And maybe that's why we went out of schedule. Maybe I'm not supposed to say anything. And maybe it's true that the wise of today, the guru, is the people. And so all I would say, and what's cropping up now, is that we definitely need each other, and in more ways than we've probably been able to conceptualize or make space for. Now we see each other, and in looking into our own eyes, each other's eyes, how can we be right? We, in beholding the other, we're always wrong because it's not enough. And so I'm briefly reminded of a passage in the Bible, and I want to hold that and share with you very briefly. There's a part where Moses is supposed to be this great prophet who talks with God frequently, and they have a good relationship. He speaks with him all the time, and then one day during their meeting or encounter, Moses said, "Okay, I've had enough. I want you to show me your face. Show me everything. Show me your entire glory." You know, I can't remember where it's at in the Bible, but if you have a Bible, go check it out. And then God says, "I can't do that. So what I'll do, but I want to honor you as a friend. So what I'll do is that I'll put you in a cleft in a rock, and then I will cover your face, and then I'll pass you by. So you will not see my face, you just see my back, just my back. And that's all you get to see. Because if you were to see all of me, you wouldn't live, you will die." And I feel maybe we want to be met in such a way. And maybe this course is part of a murmuration of other movements in the world where we're yearning for something to meet us. Maybe that's why we have rites of passage. We're trying to meet the impossible. We're trying to touch the unthought, trying to behold that which cannot be conceptualized. And so here's where we are at this moment, at a place where concepts can no longer linger. We're at the edge. And I want to dive into this edge with you all. There's no reckoning. There's no final vindication. There's only us, and a thick us I refer to, not just human beings, but non-humans as well. So I invite you to take care of yourselves in this coming time. And I mean that serious. I don't mean that in a cavalier, playful sense. I mean, take some actual time after this to ground yourself in what takes care of you and what nurtures you. And also remember that discomfort is also a rich place of taking care of ourselves, maybe even richer than the places where we feel safe. Find a place and find feet in ground that has not been discovered yet. Let's stay here in this messy accounting for the world that is changing. There's a lot of unfinished business, but we're here together. So this fumbling mess of words and this wanting to just go to sleep, and in gratitude for all this time that we've spent together, I say thank you, and yeah.
Bayo, can I say something?
Yes, Tika.
Thank you so much for all the work, the emotional labor that we all have done in this course. But as you were talking, my heart started to flutter, and I knew I had to say this. Can we all just send our love to Jay and acknowledge that her crying out in pain and maybe anger and frustration and disappointment be received and returned with love to her. And I thank all of the folks that have stepped up to be with her and to hear her. And also to the folks that have just watched this unfold on the Facebook page and also in this space. And there's so many ways in which I have been touched, and I don't know how to say what I want to say. I've been very touched by Eve's story. I've been very touched by just looking at your faces, and so and Brenda's rituals, opening and closing ceremonies, and also just all of you that I didn't get to know, didn't get to have one-on-one or back channels. I just want to thank you, and let's stay in touch.
And all the people, Tita, thank you. All the people that walked away from Omelas, if you will. The people that started out but couldn't end with us. Please just think of them and send your love to them as well. Thank you. This is awkward. What do we do with this? I don't know what to do with this.
Where's
I'm
the
sorry.
dance? No, Kuyan, you're supposed to lead us in a dance.
I have something quick to share that I'd like to to show you.
Yes,
there's somebody here in the room that wants to speak, and I can't speak without her sitting here. So give me 1/2 second.
Okay.
While we're waiting for Fran, I just that there is no goodbye. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Fran is muted.
You're muted, Fran. You're muted.
Hmm. Hmm. Fran, wherever you are, thank you for embodying Cali. That felt like Cali there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Fran. Fran, we thank you.
What happened?
Cali came to bless us.
Oh, I missed
Yes.
it. I just went out to pee.
So I'm not sure if I'm closing or not. I just want to check in.
Okay, Brenda.
And yeah, so I want to say a few things. 2017 has been a tumultuous year for everywhere, not just in this space, in many spaces. Like I said, comfort zones are being demolished because we're going to be building a new world into the future, and it requires us, like when you go through customs to a new country, they tell you what you can bring in and what you can't, right? We're shedding a lot of things that we're not going to take into the future with one another. So thank you for being a place where we're composting and shedding together. The other piece I want to share that Spirit's asking me to share is that 2018 is a master year where we're going to be invited to co-create with Mother Earth, the new world, the new systems, the things. And one of the most urgent questions that I heard from another person that I listened to is, what needs to be parented and loved and nurtured in your life and inside of you? Where do you need to love yourself in a way that you have yet to find in the world? Because it is from that resource place that you will be able to bring your gift into the world. The parts of us that are so desperate to control, so desperate to hide, is some of what we're trying to shed in this course, so that we can come from that place. And to know that we're all on this journey, and it's uncomfortable and messy, but it's necessary for humanity to move through this muck, to turn away from a dead end road. So I thank you, Bio, for calling us into this messy space, to allow ourselves to go more into ourselves and more into each other, as messy as it has felt at times and as beautiful as it's felt at times. I don't know if Kuyan has something, but I want to note that Lang Lang had put up earlier in the chats, when we were in a lot of conversation early in the call, Diana Ross and the song I'm Coming Out. And it felt really appropriate to play that and dance together as we close this call. And I don't know if Kuyan had other things that you wanted to share before we turn on the music, but I felt like I caught that thread early on. Go ahead.
I think we should just then, I just have a friend who wants to visit us. I think this friend is probably someone who is very familiar to all of you, particularly to Bio.
Yes. Okay. I want to know.
Oh, Freud.
Oh.
But dance with us.
Is that Freud or Bernie Sanders? I don't know.
Does he dance? That's the main thing.
Okay.
So as we dance to okay, love you. Sorry. So as we go into the dance, I just want to say you were never not loved. And this is words from Andrew Martin. You were never not loved. Oh, to feel what I feel. But I don't have to carry, the horse doesn't have to take me down the wild horse chase with that feeling. Open your heart to feel in 2018. It will guide you everywhere you need to go, because moving from this year to next year is moving less in our heads and much more in our hearts. If you want to navigate the tumultuous times ahead, that is the best advice I can give you. And to slow down and listen to Mother Earth. Those things will guide you. Just because we've done things a certain way doesn't mean that's how we have to do it in 2018. So surrender to the master year and to what wants to come through you. and be relentlessly present with yourself. Relentlessly present with your own self-awareness and your self-love, so we can co-create in the new year together. And so in that context of you are never not loved and you are your own well resource and you always have that present in you. Let's dance to Diana Ross and I'm Coming Out as we close this session. Hopefully this is loud enough. We'll see. Now I'll put it on the computer.
You can unmute and everybody sing along.
Feel free to dance.
What happened? What happened?
What happened?
I think Brenda fell off the call.
Guess we have to sing it.
What happened to Brenda?
Music.
I wonder where. Yeah, sing it. Except not me. I'm sure we don't know the words, right? Just keep it. And
I'm coming out.
I'm coming out.
I want the world to know. I'm
Yeah, we
gonna
don't need the
let
music.
it go. I'm coming out.
I'm coming out. I'm breaking free.
I'm composting.
Hey, Brenda. Where's Brenda? Come.
Aaron's going for it.
Okay, I'm gonna stand up. All right, we should all stand up.
I'm breaking free.
This is no longer dancing with mountains. It's dancing as mountains.
Well,
I like
I
the
wish-
silent dancing too.
Yeah, it's cool. You don't need music. Now let your Latin spirit take your gatekeepers and kick them out the window. Come on.
Love to you all. Aaron, I know you have to go now, right?
I have another call in 3 minutes.
Oh
friend.
no, Aaron.
It's hard to say goodbye.
But I'm gonna unmute you all.
Yeah.
And if you want to say anything, you may.
Can we
Unmute it. Unmute it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
For all of it. All of it.
There it is.
Got to let you go.
Until we meet for our dance party in person.
Yes, I can't wait. Oh, I love that I'm dancing with Freud. That's so funny.
He's turning in his grave. Come on, Bio, get up and dance. What's wrong with you?
Go, man.
Come on, you're not an academic anymore.
Oh, my friend. Now you're letting out. Okay.
I've been out for years, so this is hard.
because I'm going to say goodbye. Love you all.
Oh, bye,
Yes.
Kristen.
Bye, Kristen.
I will miss you all. Bye for now.
Bye.
Again.
Rio.
Bye, Rio.
Bye. Big love.
Brenda and her elephant.
Bye, Ilse's cat is like, what is going on here?
He's like, not what I said. Oh, the mask is coming
He's
back.
like, I didn't sign up for this. Okay, final despedida. Everybody, goodbye. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Bye.
Bye.
Talk soon.